Hi guys, in today's session I'll be taking you through session 3 uh, under unit standard 14938. The title for session 3 is maintain information logs of problems identified. So let's look at the outcomes for session 3. The first item is the information logs are maintained in a recording system for problems and solution. So when we have a recording system, that's more of your database. So there's one analysis or one technique that talks about the recording system where we can log in problems for future references. And also we've got the information log maintenance, which identifies sources for occurrence, volumes for problems, and solution for future reference of technical support for area of expertise. So this is similar to the first item where we have a DPM, a DP, a database management system in place for future references when we encounter same issues in terms of the problem. So it's much more easier when we can maintain that DBM, where we can just modify certain, modify certain problems, and also we can change in terms of how can we structure or add in terms of the 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 technique that has been utilized. And also we've got the information log maintenance, which identifies sources for new information and trends for future reference of technical support in the area of expertise. And also we've got the information logs maintain show an understanding of the need for information logs as sources of information for future reference of technical support for area of expertise. So this is these two lines. It's more of how can we maintain this type of process where we log in the problems, and if for future reference there's certain modification that needs to happen in terms of these problems or solution that needs to be added, we can just easily modify the process. So let's look in terms of the first item in terms of session 3. So we have problem management. Is the process which is responsible for managing the life cycle of all problems. So this primary objective of this problem management is to prevent problems and result incident from happening, to eliminate recurring incidents, and to minimize the impact of incidents that cannot be prevented. So the information technology infrastructure library also defines a problem as the cause of one or more incidents. So in this instance, when we refer to problem management, we discuss in terms of how can we prevent problems. We have a process in place where it points out, it presents incidents from happening to eliminating reoccurring incidents. So it's a structure in place where we can detect where the start point and the end point when the incident or the problem occur. So this also assists us in terms of how can we modify the process that is in place. For instance, on this image that I've extracted, also you can see the process flow, start point from problem detection, and from the endpoint where we can when we can review a problem in this instance. So also we've got the database in this instance where I've mentioned where we can have a process within the database. This instance within the database, it's where we can have uh, problems in problems that are not that we would like to maybe to modify later at the later stage, or maybe there might be similar problems that we would like to maybe modify. The database always assists us in terms of having those problems being saved in that process. So it's much more easier when there's a certain problem that might reoccur in the future. We can easily go back to the database, which is a known error, and check in terms of the type of error. Has it reoccur? Has it happened prior before? And we can check maybe is it something similar? Can we add from what we have managed to have maybe a review or an analysis that was depicted with regards to the problem. So these are just a problem management process that defines incident. And also on the next slide, let's look in terms of the scope. A scope for which it's in part of the problem management. It includes the activities required to diagnose the root cause of an incident identified through the incident management process. So in this instance, this scope, it consists of activities, your action items, which is required to diagnose the root cause analysis. So remember, within on the previous slide, uh, when we have a root cause analysis, it's in line in terms of when we want to review the major or within the end point of the project management, when we want to submit a report in relation to the root cause analysis. It assists us in terms of giving a thorough in-depth analysis of the problem and what can we improve in terms of going forward. And also the scope, its main function is to determine the resolution to the problems, and is also responsible for ensuring that the resolution is implemented through the appropriate control procedures, especially change management and release management. And also on the next slide, problem management will also maintain information about problems and the appropriate workarounds and resolutions, so that the organization is able to reduce the number and impact of incidents over time. And also the problem management has a strong interface with knowledge management and the tools such as the known error database, which will be used for both. Remember, for the error database, it's a tool in use where we can gather, we can store our prior incidents for future references. If maybe we have something similar in the future, it's easier to retrieve these incident and just compare in terms of is it something similar, can we modify, or what can we add in terms of the new problem that has emerged. Moving right along, in terms of the value to the business, problem management works together with incident management and change management to ensure that IT service available and quality are increased. When incidents are resolved, information about the resolution is recorded. Also, over time, this information is used to speed up the resolution time and identify permanent solutions, reducing the number and solutions time of incident. So this result in less downtime and less disruption to business critical analysis. And also let's look in terms of the problem detection. For problem detection, suspicion or detection of a cause of one of more incidents by a service desk, resulting in a problem record being raised. So service desk may have resolved the incident but has not determined a definite cause and suspect that is likely to reoccur. So this first step, it's where your service desk would detect an incident, but they wouldn't determine a definite cause in terms of the incident. So this, they may just log in terms of following the process, which will allow in terms of how can we solve the problem. So also on the next slide, problem detection, it's an analysis of an incident by a technical support group which reveals that an underlying problem exists or is it likely to exist. Also, automated detection of an infrastructure or application fault using event or alert tools automatically to raise an incident which may reveal the need for a problem record. So also a notification from a supplier or contractor that a problem exists that has to be resolved. Analysis of incident as part of proactive problem management, such as watch bulletins, releases, and relevant papers. Also, in terms of problem logging, All the relevant details of problem must be recorded so that a full historic record exists. This must be date and time stamped in to allow suitable control and escalation. So in this instance, this is very important in terms of logging in problems. So it should be in full detail in terms of logging in a problem. It should be in depth in terms of how can it should be in depth, and also allow the process to be followed in terms of how can we solve the problems based on the problem management process. And also, you know, for future references, how can we stop this from happening in terms of providing other solutions. And also, for problem logging, so we've got a cross reference which must be made to the incident which initiated the problem record. It consists of user details, service details, equipment details, date time initially logged, priority and categorization details, incident description, details for all diagnostic or attempted recovery action taken. So this instance, this is just a record which consists of the problem logging details and in-depth detail analysis. So it consists of all these items, and it allows the technical support group to have a thorough overview of the problem itself. Also, on the next slide, we've got the problem investigation and diagnosis. So the result of an investigation for a problem will be a root cause diagnostic or a root cause analysis report. The resolution should be the sum of the appropriate level of resources and skills used to find it. So there are a number of useful problem solving techniques that can be used to help diagnosis and resolve problems. And also on the next slide, we've got the CMS, which must be used to help determine the level of impact and to assist in pinpointing the point of failure. As I've mentioned prior on the previous slide, we have the known error database, or the key DBM, which the key EDB, which should be accessed and checked in order to find out if the problem has occurred in the past. So if a resolution should be already in place, and the chronological analysis, which are the events that triggered the problem, will be checked in a chronological order in order to have a timeline of events. So the purpose is to see which event triggered the next event, so on, and to rule out some possible events. And also, you've got the pain value analysis. It's one of the techniques. So this technique works by looking at the important issue to the business, like for example, number of people affected, cost to the business, expected duration of the service downtime. So these factors are then applied to a particular problem to get a weight view of the criticality of that problem. And also, once all the problems have been analyzed, there is a scientific determination of which problem should be addressed and not just personal reference. And also, on the pain value analysis, it contains a broader view of the impact of an incident or a problem on the business. Rather than analyzing the number of incidents or problems of a particular type in a particular time interval, the technique focuses on an in-depth analysis of what level of pain has been caused to the business by these incident or problems. So also, we've got you need to formulate to calculate the level of pain, which should take into account these are the formula. So it's the number of people affected and the duration of the downtime cost, and also the cost to the business. Also, we've got another technique which is called the Kepner and Tregu method. So it is used to find the cause of the problem. It isolates the who, what, when, where, and how aspect of an event, keeping the focus on the elements that have an impact on the event and eliminating the elements that do not. And also, it allows you to compare what the problem is with what it is not, illuminating distinctive features of the problem and pointing out its potential cause. So you need to follow the steps in terms of how can you find the cause of the problem. So the first stage is you need to define the problem. Also, the second stage is you need to describe the problem in terms of the identity, the location, the time, and the size, which is the impact. Also, you need to establish possible causes. Remember on the previous slide what I mentioned, for future references, a problem may reoccur, but now on a different aspect. So now this method assists us in terms of establishing the possible causes. So we might find out that the possible causes might reoccur later in the future, but in a different way. So how can we solve that, or have solutions if that might transpire? And also, one of the stages, you need to test the most probable cause, and also you need to verify the true cause. And also, we've got another technique, which is the Pareto analysis. It's a simple decision making technique for assessing competing problems and measuring the impact of fixing them. And also, this allows you to focus on the solution that will provide the most benefit. And the Pareto analysis consists of steps also that should be taken. So from the table, so this steps, it's how you should complete the Pareto analysis chart. It's a table, it's a bar graph table that you need to populate. So in this instance, from a table listing the causes and their frequency as percentages, as you can see on the image that I've extracted. It consists of percentages as frequency, and listing the causes within the table. So as you can see, we have a delay in room services, delay in room allocation, waste food, unidentified charges, asking for tip, and so forth. So these are examples of listing the causes. Also, we've got the frequency, which is in blue. These are the bar graphs, and the cumulative frequency, it's the line that we have that is being depicted according to the percentages that we have, or the numbers on the right hand side. Also, you need to arrange the rows in the decreasing order of the importance of the causes. The most important cause first, as you can see, the number are in a decreasing order. I've got from 45 going down up until to 0. And also you need to add a cumulative percentage column to the table. Also, this is what Excel will allow you to add the percentages column. And also you need to create a bar graph, a bar chart with the causes in order of their percentage of total. You need to draw a line at 80% on the y axis, then drop the line at the point of intersection with the x-axis. So this is the line that they refer to. From the chart, you can see the primary cause for the network failures. This should be targeted first. So as you can see, this is the line that they refer to. Remember, this is an 80-20 rule. So it goes through the 80% from the x-axis down to the y on the y-axis, down to the x-axis. Also, the cumulative percentage is the one that you see on the left hand side, and also these represent the numbers that are in decreasing and the descending order. So continue further on the next slide. We have an example of a Pareto analysis. In this example, Jack has taken over a falling computer service center with a host of problems that need resolving. So his main objective is to increase overall customer satisfaction. He decides to carry out a Pareto analysis to assess and prioritize the biggest issue facing the center. He starts by listing these on the column in the next slide. He then identifies the underlying causes behind each causes column, and finally he scores item by the number of customer complaints that each has received. So as we can see on the next slide, We've got items in terms of the problems that he encountered, and the causes and the score. So for item number one, the problem, the phones aren't answered quickly enough. The causes, it's because of too few customers service staff, and the score is about 15. It's about 15. And also the second problem, the staff seem distracted and under pressure. Also, we've got too few customer service staff. Engineers aren't well organized and often need to book second visits to bring extra points. The cause for that, it's poor organization and preparation. So we have the type of problems and the causes and the scores that are recorded. And so continue further on the next slide with regards to the example. So now Jack uses his analysis to group problems together by cause, then adds up to the scores for each group identified. So as you can check, based on the problems that he managed to put together, when he managed to put together the problems, as you can check, lack of training. Remember, based on the causes that he has, he managed to group them together. So lack of training, few service staff, and poor organization and preparation. So now when you combine these two, 30 and 21, it give you a total number of causes that you find within the arising problems that you have. So in terms of lack of training, when you combine the items too, it will give you a total. Same with the too few service center staff and poor organization and preparation. So we've got the scores and the causes in line with the Pareto analysis technique. So now he is now able to order the main causes affecting the center, starting with the one that has attracted the highest number of customer complaints. So in terms of lack of training, items 5 and 4, we've got about 51 complaints. Remember, in terms of how did he manage to get on to 51, he had managed to add these two. It gave him 51. And also to few service center staff, items 1 and 2 got in 21 complaints. Poor organization and preparation, items 3 and 4 has about 6 complaints. Remember, as I've mentioned, the Pareto analysis is within the 80 rule technique. So as you can see from the above figure or above slide, the business will benefit most from giving staff more training. So Jack should tackle this first. So he could also look to increase the number of staff in the call center. So however, it's possible that this won't be necessary. The provision of further training may help to reduce customer complaints and increase staff productivity. So this is the analysis based on the Pareto technique. So remember that the Pareto technique is more of your 80 rule or your 80-20 rule, and it should be depicted according to your courses and based on the table that you have managed to populate. As you can see, this table is in relation to the 80-20 rule. Also, Jack's Pareto analysis has enabled him to quickly identify the areas of the business that face the biggest challenges, so he can focus his efforts where they are needed most and prioritize issues that will provide the biggest payoff to the business. So this will likely save him a great deal of time and money that he might otherwise have spent trying to fix a range of different issues, some of which may have provided very little benefit. So let's move on to another technique, which is the known error record. So a known error record contains the details of a known error. As the word suggests, it serves a known error. So adding an unknown error record, so incidents resolved by technical staff using workaround, and also create an unknown error record with the symptoms and resolution details. Assessing known error record. So this is a process for a known error record. So new incident is reported, search for in the database and apply the fix. Deleting known error record. So the permanent solution is implemented, and also an exploit or achieve related and known error record. So each error record documents the life cycle of a known error, including the status and the root cause and the work around. Also, the known error record after the investigation is completed, a workaround or even a permanent solution has been found. So a known error record must be raised and placed in the database in order to identify and resolve further similar problems. So the main purpose is to restore an affected the service as soon as possible with the minimum impact on the business. So a good practice would be to raise a known error record even earlier in the investigation, just for information purposes. Also, for known error record, after the investigation is complete and the workaround, or even a permanent solution has been found, a known error record must be raised and placed in the database in order to identify and resolve similar problems. Also, the main purpose is to restore the affected service as soon as possible with minimal impact on the business. And a good practice would be a raise of known error record even earlier in the investigation, just for information purposes. Also, we have a major problem review. So a good practice is to have a review of all the major problems. The review should examine the correct steps taken, the problems encountered during the implementation of the solution, the need to improve, prevent the reoccurrence of further similar incidents, third-party vendor supply involved in the implementation. The knowledge learned from the review should be incorporated into a service review with the business customer to ensure that the customer is aware of the actions taken and the plans to prevent future similar incidents from reoccurring. And also, this helps to improve customer satisfaction and assure the business that service operation is handling major incidents responsibly and actively working to prevent their future reoccurrences. So this is a review in terms of reviewing the major problem. It's a process that you need to adhere to. So these are the steps that you need to take. Just need to just a check. It's a checklist where you just have to check in terms of do you need improvement in terms of the review based on what you've encountered. Also, you need to check the third party vendor supplier which is involved in terms of the implementation. You need to also check the reoccurrences of further similar incidents based on the problem that you have encountered. So this is just a review, as the word suggests, in terms of the major problem. So that's it in terms of your the session 3 for unit standard 14938. So let's look in terms of the rest of the questions for this unit standard. So let's look session 3 activities. Activity 10, what is the problem management? And also for activity 11, additional values derived from, you need to complete that statement. That's for activity 11. And activity 12, you need to discuss the importance of problem logging. And activity 13, you need to list useful problem solving techniques that can be used to help diagnosis and resolve problems. You've got the operator, for example. I'll just only mention one. So you'll have to mention those techniques. Activity 14, what should a major problem review examine? Include those steps and you will be fine. So that's it in terms of your learner workbook. Remember, on our session, I've taken you through all activities from session 1 and 2. So in this session I'll be mainly focusing on activities for, in your learner workbook, activities for session 3. So let's move on to your summative assessment, which is one assessment that I have not taken you through. So let's start from the beginning in terms of activity 1 or task 1. So for activity 1, you need to write a plan that identifies an organization that has agreed to be investigated. That's for activity 1. And activity 2, you need to explain what should an RFP contain. That's for activity 2. And also at key milestones during delivery, the project board might wish to take stock of the project and satisfy itself that is sensible and viable to continue. So to do this, it might be sure that you need to list below. Okay, I think there's an error. This assessment or questions, it's a repetitive of one of the unit standard we've managed to do. So what I will do, I'll just populate. Just make additions in terms of these activities. So just give me a few minutes and we'll just review the summative assessment. Okay, I've managed to review the activities or the task for summative questions. So let me take you through the new additions in terms of the assessment or questions rather. So for activity 1, the question is, how do you fix a blank monitor? That's for activity 1. And also for activity 2, you need to list 3 software problems. And for activity 3, you need to discuss the importance of defining a problem clearly. And activity 4, how does a system analysis, development and maintenance help in identification of a problem? Activity 5, what are the technical support guidelines? That's for activity 5. And activity 6, what is the importance of project estimation and scheduling? And activity 7, you need to list problems encountered during project estimation and scheduling. And activity 8, you need to discuss costing and pricing. That's for activity 8. And activity 9, you need to discuss the software pricing factors. And activity 10, you need to explain what is the problem management. And activity 11, you need to complete the statement the additional values derived from. That's for activity 11. And activity 12, you need to discuss the importance of problem logging. And activity 13, you need to list useful problem solving techniques that can be used to help diagnose and resolve problems. And activity 14, what should a major problem review examine? And that will be all for activities or task for summative assessment. So that's it in terms of your summative assessment, and I'll be looking forward for submission deadline, which is next week. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.